We're talking with the author of 100 Things to Do in America Before You Die, next on City Corner. Hi, I'm Sarah Thompson, and welcome to City Corner. Travel journalist and radio host Bill Clevlen has written a book called 100 Things to Do in America Before You Die. I'm not going to laugh saying before you die because
I know,
it
sounds morbid. It's not, I promise.
And today on the show, we're going to talk about how this all came about. 100 things to do. It's not necessarily 100 places to visit, 100 things to do in America before you die. How did this come about?
Yeah, I mean, it's experiences. So when we travel, that's what we remember about our travels, good or bad. When you think about your life and you think about road trips you've taken, you like the things that you have experienced. You don't necessarily say, one particular place or another. It's those things that you actually do. And so having traveled the country now for a while, doing this travel writing gig, I thought it would be fun to point out a lot of things that I have done, and even a few things that I still have not done myself, that you should do. Essentially what I wanted to do was tell the story of America through travel. And so I picked whether it's food or whether it's civil rights or culture or whatever, amusements, sports. What are some things that could tell the story of America through travel? And so things that you can do as you're going across the United States.
That's fantastic. So where does it go from, you're a travel journalist, and so you write and you've got your...
Sounds so important, doesn't it? The travel journalist, yeah.
Well, you're a radio host, and that's, people know you're a radio host. You've got your podcast as well. How do you go from traveling and writing, obviously, to then saying, hey, I'm going to put this into a book, though? I mean, was it really the sense that, hey, I want people to really to understand comprehensively all these places that I've been?
It's funny, I wish I had a better story for you. I was actually approached by this lovely publishing company here in St. Louis, Reedy Press, and they wanted me to, I don't know if I should say this or not, they wanted me to write a book on Route 66. Oh, and I said, no, I don't think so. It wasn't really anything that I was terribly interested in, and so I'm probably the first person in America to turn down a the publisher, they called me and I go, no, I don't think so. But I sort of counter-offered and I said, well, what if I did, because I know that they had the 100 Things to Do series, and there's probably, I don't know, I'm guessing like 60 or more versions of this book, but for different cities across the country. There's one here in St. Louis too. And so I said, what if I did 100 Things to Do in America Before You Die? Because that's right up my alley. I'm traveling all over the country. And I think it was a reluctant yes, but they did say yes. And I'm happy now that it's, I think, one of their best-selling books that they have. And it's been great for me, and I've loved traveling all over the country. Last year, like the last 6 months of the year, I did a book tour. Went all throughout the Midwest, went through the South, and talked to folks about travel, signed books. It was a lot of fun.
So do you have a lot of, is it either frequent flyer miles or does your car have a lot of miles on it?
So people, we were just before we started this in the studio talking about cars and types of vehicles, and I drive everywhere.
Okay.
And mainly because I feel it's very disingenuous for me to talk about road trips and tell people to take road trips across the country and then hop on a flight somewhere, So I drive everywhere. So any place that I talk about, whether it's on the radio or an article on my website, I have gotten in the car and I've driven there.
Got it. No, you see a lot. I won't say you see a lot more. I mean, it's just two different perspectives.
A lot of oil changes.
Yeah, and you get to see different parts of town, gets to see the landscape. I mean, there's just different things that...
Yeah, and I love, I love stopping. Nobody likes to drive with me, though, because I stop every 30 minutes for something. But, whether it's like the world's tallest fork or, something, all these stupid things. But it's what makes driving across America so great, because we have all these quirky things everywhere, or whether it's a little small diner or where you get to actually interact with people in different communities. I love that aspect of, and you don't get that by hopping on an airplane.
Right. So are you normally traveling by yourself?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Sarah.
Well, no, the reason, and I'm going to tie it to something else, because the photos, you've got great photography.
Oh,
and if people follow you on Instagram, you've got great photos. So somebody's got to take the photos with you in it. That's where I was going with it.
So this is interesting. So I have never been a big selfie person. Like I don't like, mainly because I know I never know how to smile or look when I'm doing it. And so I will just ask people periodically when I travel, can you take a picture? And that's actually a really nice way when you're traveling to actually meet people and meet new people and get to know folk, because people, they don't do that anymore now. Everybody just, they have their little selfie stick and whatever it is. And so you don't talk to other people. I will actually, this is silly, but I will, when I go places, sometimes I will actually look for people who are having a hard time getting their selfie. And I will just go, would you like me to take your picture? And 9 times out of 10, they're like, yes, that would be awesome. Yeah. So I take a picture and then, I get really into it. I'm on the ground and I'm doing the different, and they're so thankful. And then you actually have a little conversation and you get to meet interesting people, find out where they're from, learn a little bit about their travels. And so yes, I do travel by myself, and that is one thing that a lot of people don't like to do. But I always recommend that people at least try it, because when you are by yourself, you are you're forced to take in more scenery. You're forced to connect with people that you wouldn't otherwise, because you'd be, chumming it up with your friend or your husband or wife or whatever. And so, traveling by yourself, you, I think, get more out of the experience.
Yeah, and you think about things, I think.
At least that's what I tell myself.
No, I agree. And when you're driving, especially by yourself, you do think about things. Well, we can't cover all 100 things in the show, but we've got some of your top picks, and I think we'll start off with the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville.
So
and there you are.
Yeah,
Somebody took the photo.
Someone took the photo. Even if you're not a country music fan, so the Grand Ole Opry is the longest running radio show in the history of the world. It's been on every Saturday night since, you do the math. I don't know what year it started, but a long time. And so even if you're not a country music fan, because that is really what it is, it's a country music show. They mix old with new. They have the old artists mixed in with some of the new up and coming artists like a Carrie Underwood or whatever. And so they're really fun shows. And so you can actually go and stand on that stage. It didn't always used to be the case. You used to have to be a VIP. But now you can go and actually stand on the stage there. And standing in the circle, it's very sacred, because it was that they took the center of the Ryman Auditorium where the Opry started, brought it over to this new Opry, it's like in the 70s. But Patsy Cline, Hank Williams, Elvis, all these famous and historic performers stood on that circle, and so you can stand in the circle like I was there. So.
Oh, that's really cool. The next one is in Casey, Illinois.
Casey, Illinois, yeah.
Casey, and then we were saying they have like all the tallest stuff.
So
right?
it's the
tallest stuff.
Yeah, it's hilarious. You go, it's almost like you feel like that Honey, I Shrunk the Kids movie when you're walking through Casey, Illinois. They have, and I'm going to forget a few of these, so forgive me. There's the world's largest golf tee. I believe that was like the second one. The first one was the world's tallest wind chime, which is there. They have the world's largest mailbox. I think you got a picture of that.
We have a picture of that
You
one.
Actually climb, there I am. You climb inside the mailbox. You can mail letters in the mailbox. When you put the letter in the mailbox, see the thing that on the side, it actually goes up. It actually goes up like you would at home if you have mail and you went there.
Very cool.
It is super cool. I think there are about 10 or 12 world record things just right in their little downtown. And one guy decided he wanted to get folks to pull off the interstate and recognize this tiny little town, and that's how he did it.
So who was? I don't know if you know this. Who built them?
His name escapes me, and I've met him, and he's a super nice person. They're all very nice there.
Like,
and he's got a shop, and so he's constant. Like when I was there, they were building the world's largest gavel, like a judge gavel. And so they're building that. So they have the world's largest wooden shoes. I mean, it's a really cool thing. And it's off of 70, so you can,
easy place from at least here to go and visit. So then we have the Indy 500.
Yeah. So I don't know a stinking thing about race cars, quite honestly. But the Indy 500 is an American experience, the world's largest sporting event. 300,000 people pack inside the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. If you've never been to Indianapolis or to the Speedway, and you've seen it on television, you do not have any idea how big this place is until you are there, and how many people can fit inside. I mean, to see 300,000 people inside, another 100,000 on the outside. And then what's really neat about the Indy 500, well, of course, the sights, the sounds, the smells, even of the gasoline and everything. But people park their cars outside. So the speedway is essentially, it's out in the middle of, I shouldn't say middle of nowhere, but it's in more like a residential area. It's not downtown. So people will park their cars on front lawns throughout the neighborhood. So you'll be approaching the Speedway and you'll see all of these homes, and there's cars parked all over front lawns throughout, like for probably a mile or so around the perimeter of the Speedway, and it's pretty neat.
You see it when you, I mean, that's a good point, that when you watch it on TV, it's not the same by any means, but you see when they do those aerial shots or with their drone shots, how large, and you're like, how many people are there? But
it's crazy. It is crazy.
So
but
it's something you've got to do.
And I don't, again, this is coming from someone that doesn't know anything about racing, or I don't even remember who won when I was there. But it's cool. It is very, very neat to see. Yep.
Here's another one, Rosa Parks bust at the Henry Ford Museum.
Yeah, so the Henry Ford is an incredible museum, Dearborn, Michigan, so maybe 30 minutes outside of Detroit. And so Henry Ford was a collector of things. And he has all sorts of, that museum, it's got the Wright brothers' first bicycle shop, it's got the chair that Abraham Lincoln was assassinated in, all of these crazy things. So the bus they got, they had it in its original condition. It did not look like it does on that picture. They restored it back to the way it was when it first came out, and you go in and you can have a seat on the very same seat where Rosa Parks sat. And that's a pretty touching moment to go in there and experience that. Again, back to experiences. So that's one of the things in the book, is to have that experience. And what better way to learn history than actually be in the spot where it happened. So.
Absolutely. I mean, you can read about it, but I think there is that part where you have a visceral reaction when you're actually touching something or seeing something in person. Well, we're going to take a quick break. We've got some information that we're going to show you on the screen. It's 100 Things to Do in America Before You Die. That's the title of Bill's book. And you can go to BillOnTheRoad.com. That's Bill's website, where you can purchase the book. Also link to his Facebook page and his Instagram, which has tons of great photos, a lot of photos that you're seeing today. You can also hear him, his podcast. We've got another graphic for that. And you can hear his podcast as well. You can also there it is, Rediscover America. And we'll talk more about that in the second half. But again, just head to BillOnTheRoad.com. But don't go anywhere. We're going to have more with Bill Clevlen after this short break. Stay with us.
Welcome, innovators, dreamers, pioneers of the 21st century. We've been expecting you to come discover your dreams and make your ideas take flight. Just like so many explorers that came before you. Welcome to the hub of opportunity. Welcome to St. Louis. Always exploring.
Don't wait. Communicate. Make your emergency plan today.
I'm Sarah Thompson, and welcome back to City Corner. Today I'm joined by Bill Clevlen, travel journalist and radio host, who has written a book called 100 Things to Do in America Before You Die. And we're kind of going over some of them and talking about how the book came about. And I want to pick back up, because one of the ones for our show today, the highlights, is touring the White House. And yeah, so we've got a picture of that. The White House is beautiful. I was just there in this past April, not there, but outside of it. And just
beyond the
Capitol
gates.
Hill.
You didn't climb over the fence.
I did not climb over the gates. You went inside, so let's talk about this. Obviously, it's a big one. Why do you think this is something you have to experience?
Yeah, and this is nothing that I, had preferential treatment with. Everyone can do that, and a lot of people are kind of stunned when I tell them that you can, as just a part of the general public, tour the White House. Now, the tickets go incredibly fast. Yeah. There's sort of a process where you have to contact one of your senators. So you contact one of the two senators, and you contact their office. You say, hey, I'm going to be in Washington, D.C. You give them the dates, and then they sort of put in an application. You are screened by the Secret Service. They do like an FBI background check on you. which is crazy that I was able to get in, right? And so, so you go in, and then, it's very interesting. You go through, there's 3 Secret Service checkpoints once you get to the White House, and then once you're beyond the 3rd, you're in front of the front doors of the East Wing of the White House, and it's a self-guided tour, and it's one of those just like you can't believe it that you're standing on the grounds of the White House, and then we can see people like you on the other side of the fence, from there, and you see the big fountain and everything. But you walk in, and you do, like I said, you see like 4 or 5 rooms. You go upstairs. And then you are standing in the area where you always see the president walking. You see that red carpet, and they walk to the podium. So you go through there. You see the state dining room, and then it's pretty much it. So it's not a long tour. It's you spend probably 35, 40 minutes in there, and then you walk out through the front door essentially, and then you can take some pictures. I think when President Obama was in office, I think you could take pictures inside for at least part of the tour.
Oh, okay.
That's changed. It changes all the time depending on, and I think part of it is they don't want, people slow down when they start taking pictures. So you kind of hold up the line when people are, some guy sent me an email the other day because we talked about this on the radio, and he was like, well, I don't understand why you can't take pictures. And I said, well, because some people aren't quite as nice to their fellow tourists, and people take too long taking pictures and stuff. Anyway, so to keep people moving, you can't really take pictures inside. So.
That I guess, Capitol Hill is really, the White House is, when you're sitting there, is really beautiful. And Capitol Hill, it's DC, especially just there in the hill, it's really quite beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It had been a while since I had been, and I went, like I said, in April, but it's really, I think something in America, I would agree with you, something that...
And tons of things to do in DC, and many of them are free, which is great. So bring comfortable shoes. That's it.
And Children's Museum of Indianapolis, that's another one that's in your book.
I'm confused for a child quite often, so they fit right in at the, this is one of my, I would say, top 3 favorite museums in the entire United States. And if you had any idea how many museums I have toured in the time I've done Bill on the Road, it's quite a few. This is actually part of an exhibit that they have going on right now about the circus. And so, but everything is very hands-on, it's interactive, it's 5 floors. Every exhibit inside the Children's Museum of Indianapolis is designed for pretty much every age level. So a little kid's going to get something out of it, a kid who, a teenager's going to get something different out of it, an adult is going to get something out of it. And so it's really interesting as you walk around the Children's Museum, you don't see a lot of parents on their cell phones and texting. And what you see at a lot of places, it's because everyone is interested in the things that they're looking at. Maybe they had a really cool exhibit last year on Hot Wheel cars. We all had Hot Wheel cars as kids, and so, but it was talking about kind of tied into the Indy 500, but you could play with, kids were racing each other with the Hot Wheels car. It's so cool. A lot of things to see there, and it's one of my favorites. And even if you are not a child, you can get something out of it. Absolutely.
That's cool. Beartooth Scenic Byway, and I hope we have these photos right, because we have that, and then the Rocky Mountain National Park. So is this correct?
This is, you're looking there. This is the Beartooth. This is part of the Beartooth Scenic Byway, and this is Charles Kuralt was a very famous travel journalist, which many people will know, and he called this the most beautiful drive in America. I said that without realizing that Charles Kuralt had already said it, and then I realized, okay, I must be on to something here. You start in Montana, not too far from Billings, Montana, and it's about 65 miles worth of road, and you'll drive through Wyoming, back into Montana, and it'll take you to the northern entrance of Yellowstone National Park. It is the only place where I have been in the United States where I felt like I was on another planet.
Really?
Besides maybe Boulder, Colorado. No, I'm kidding.
But for different reasons.
Yeah, and so, but it's beautiful. And it's one of these deals where you have to stop the car every 5 minutes and take pictures because, again, look, you saw that picture. That doesn't look like, Is
it because it feels so untouched and you're not seeing a lot of
There's that, and there's just the way the scenery is laid out. The colors, and there's just something that's magical about it. And I've said this to people, especially when I've done these book events and these book tour things, and I'll tell the audience, and I'll say, I feel like I'm on another planet. But once in a while, somebody will raise their hand and be like, "You are totally right. I have done this, and that's an accurate description."
Yeah.
But it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. And so,
I have not.
Couldn't go this time of the year because it's covered in snow, but. You know,
Just
certainly
in the summer.
in
When you did
spring
that,
and
was
summer.
that spring and
Yeah, that was
spring?
in August,
Summer.
month of August. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. And then Rocky Mountain National Park.
Yeah, I mean, what's there to not to love about Rocky Mountain National Park? There's a picture of me with my dad. We travel together. Once a year, I take him on a trip. You know, it's interesting. People will, when they hear you're a travel writer or they travel journalist, they'll say, "Oh, that's the greatest job in the world," and or they see pictures online of you doing these fun things. And my dad, God love him, he would tell people when I first started, he'd say, well, Bill's on vacation again, because I'd be out of town and he would see the pic, and so I decided to take him on a trip with me. And I think we went to Indianapolis or somewhere. It wasn't, too far away. And so when you do these trips, these press trips, we'll call them, they load you up with things to do. So from when the sun comes up till the time it's, you are doing a ton of stuff because they want you to see as much as you possibly can of their destination. So I took my dad on one of these trips, and he didn't make it a day before he said, "Oh my gosh," he goes, "How do you do this?" I said, "What, vacation?" And then he got it. Because there was a lot more work than people realized. Granted, I'm very fortunate, and I'm not, complaining at all. But yeah, so I take him occasionally, like once a year. We'll go and we'll do a trip,
great.
and
Just
it's
to
fun
have
fun to travel with him. And so yeah, we've done everything from Mount Rushmore to Cooperstown. A lot of fun experience. In fact, in the book, one of my favorite pictures. I hope he's not watching this. I'm not telling him I did this. One of my favorite pictures in the book is Dad standing in front of Stan Musial's locker, which is in Cooperstown at the Baseball Hall of Fame. Another one of the things in the book. And so he didn't know I was watching it. I snapped a picture of it.
No, that's great. That's really great. That you have that time to spend with your dad and doing something, especially in a new environment. I know when you and I talked, you said, "Don't ask me what my favorite place is," and I won't ask you that question because I know it's hard to narrow it down. But I guess when you've traveled this country, and it's not so much your favorite place, but when you think about the experiences that you're having, I mean, what does it sort of like fill you with? And I'm not trying to make that like that sort of warm and fuzzy question, but you have a lot of time on your own to think, and you're seeing America. You're meeting people from a wide range of backgrounds, different stories, different upbringings. And what is it that you've kind of like come to that conclusion about, if you will, the way the world works and this country works in that sense? And
the way the world works.
Maybe not
deep.
the way.
No, I always tell people that when I first started this, it was very much about seeing the newest museum or going to see these historic places or getting to try, a new restaurant, whatever. But it very quickly became about meeting people. And so what I will always tell people when I do these events, that it's really interesting, no matter where you are in the country, you're going to find good, decent people. And I always say that like 95% of America full of good, decent folks, and we always pay attention to the 5%, or maybe it's a little less than that, of the people who are out doing stupid things and saying stupid things, and we always focus on this negative. But when you travel around and you talk to people and you talk to them as humans, and you don't try to put people in a certain box, whether it's how they look or what they eat or how they dress or the accent or whatever, you start to quickly realize that most people are pretty good, decent folks. And it's such a hard time getting that message across to people because we're so inundated with all of these negative things, whether it's on social media or whatever, that when we do travel, or even just within our own community, you look at somebody from afar, you hear how they sound, or you see how they dress, and you immediately put them in a box, and you don't get to know them as people. And so that's what, for me, that's what I have learned. Kind of feel like a preacher here, but that's what I've learned, is that most people are pretty good, decent folks. And sometimes, I have friends even that will just roll their eyes when I tell them that, and I'm just like, I'm telling you, that is the absolute truth. So stereotyping is one thing that drives me crazy, because I hear it all the time. People will say, well, don't go to this place because of this or that, or like, I'm telling you guys, all across this country, you're going to find good folks. So.
No, I think when you travel, you see so much of the world that once you are exposed to that much, it is difficult, I think, to kind of come back and to just live in a sort of a tight framework.
Well, that's why they say travel is good for the soul, because you are forced to, like, it drives me crazy when, and I will not name any names, but people that I know, just local, that don't go anywhere. They don't leave the state. And so you're missing out on learning about other people and about even just in our, it sounds funny saying other cultures within our, just our country here.
Sure.
But you think about it, how many different types of regions we have, even just in the United States, and how people do things differently or speak differently or whatever. And yeah, you got to get out there and see the rest of the country. Yeah.
Well, we've got some photos that we're not going to have a chance to like walk through them, so we'll just have them.
Because I've talked too much, Sarah?
No, we still have some time, and this is, I think, the reason I pulled this one, I thought it was really beautiful. That's down in Little Rock. But I guess the question I was going to ask you is,
you know why? I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt you and steal your show. Do you know why that's red? Because Little Rock, Arkansas, the lovely folks of Little Rock, Arkansas, when I was there on my book tour, they lit their bridges downtown red, white, and blue for me when I was in town.
Really?
Isn't that cool? So that's what that picture is.
Oh, well, I was going to say,
pedestrian bridges, yeah.
Oh, that's very neat. I did not, I didn't know.
Sorry, I hijacked your question.
No, that's important. Well, I thought we could just go through some of these while we talk. Was there anything when you were writing the book that you just couldn't fit in there? You know, it's not like you could do 104 or something. Was there like one that you really wanted to include that you had to leave out?
It's funny. I was just talking today to someone who's going to be writing a book, one of these books for another city, and we were sharing some stories, and I said in the original book, I included a couple of places that wound up closing. So there were one restaurant closed, and actually I take that back. One was a bridge, and the bridge burned down. So I had to change a couple of things, and one that I got to include because of that unfortunate bridge burning was Johnny Carson's hometown. I am a huge Johnny Carson fan. And so I included visiting his childhood home in Nebraska, and you can see his house, of course. And so, so I was able to put that in as part of those things.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up too, because we're gonna have to. There's the Alex Trebek photo, and I had to know.
Oh my gosh!
So did you? Were you on Jeopardy?
I'm not smart enough to be on. I'm not even smart enough to be here. So Alex, I've never met Alex Trebek, but when I was a kid, one of the things I loved doing was writing famous people and getting pictures. I always loved photography, and so you would write these people and you'd get pictures sent to you. When I lived at home, my dad, they had a separate thing. This is how many I'd send out. They had a separate little tray outside of my dad's house because I'd get so much mail, and the mail guy knew to just leave it in the box. So every morning you'd go out and check the mail, and hey, you got 3 envelopes there. And one of them was Alex Trebek, who just had some brain surgery recently, and so that's why I posted that on there. So.
Well, I wanted to be sure to include that, but thank you so much for being here.
We're out of time already?
I know we are out of time, but thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you at home for watching. We're going to show you quickly a graphic, 100 Things to Do in America Before You Die. This is Bill's book. You can go to BillOnTheRoad.com to purchase it. Also follow him on Facebook and Instagram. And if you want to hear him on his podcast, it's called Rediscover America. And you can, again, click to it from BillOnTheRoad.com or go straight through iTunes or Stitcher. Thanks again for being here, and thank you at home for watching, and keep it right here on STL TV, Experience St. Louis.